The Two and Out CFL podcast with Travis Currah and Sheldon Jones starts now.
Yes, here we are, just a few weeks before Christmas. Travis Currah and Sheldon Jones catching up on what we've all missed since the 112th Grey Cup. Sheldon, you were rocking the championship hat. They already had an autograph signing in Regina with 3 championship members of that Saskatchewan Roughriders team. It seemed like that event was quite the hit that day.
Yeah, it was crazy. I went and I bought another one of these hats so that they could sign them. Yeah, it was. They were only supposed to be there for 2 hours. We went about a half hour before it was supposed to start, I think. And we were already, like, I'd say 200, 300 people deep. Like, it was quite a lineup. And then by the time they actually started, it went like anyone who's been to Mosaic, it was at the line started at the ticket office doors and went all the way towards Elphinstone Street. And it was then started going down Elphinstone Street. Like, it was crazy. The guys ended up staying for like almost 4 hours to get almost everybody. They had to finally cut it off, but they stayed late. They got it done. The Grey Cup was there. It was awesome.
That is awesome. It's good that they stayed as long as they could anyway to get to as many people as they could. And the Grey Cup was not the final Canadian football game of the season. That was the 60th Vanier Cup held in Regina. Saskatchewan looking to take over the Canadian football world. Of course, the Hilltops winning the junior football title, the Riders winning the Grey Cup, but the Montreal Carabins winning the Vanier Cup. Congrats to them. It was a pretty dominant performance. They did shut down the Huskies' rushing attack, and I think that was really the difference in the game. Although, and you know, it's been talked about, a really egregious missed call over the line of scrimmage. I think there were a few other things going on there as well. So I guess that's the difference. And I know you were in attendance, but me watching on TV, the replay is a conversation across sport. Do we want it to affect the game or not? But then we watch a university game and they don't have replay and an egregious missed call happens and it just stands. So when I'm watching on my couch, it's like, what? No, wait a minute. We got to fix it. But no, that's the way it stood.
Yeah, and that was at a pivotal time in the game where if the Huskies were able to stop them there, it would have been a third down and they would have punted, and instead they went on to score on that drive. So, yeah, and we actually had, they had an interview kind of with Andre Proulx, or well, not an interview, but an article on 3 Down Nation with some of his thoughts from, I think it was like a French language interview about the year, and he said how they're graded and everything, and he talked about the call in the Calgary and Edmonton game where Rankin fumbled the ball at the 1 yard line and blah blah blah. The wrong call was called, and he kind of made it clear that even though he knew that was the call, he had no authority to overstep it in the review, because once it goes up to the review people, it's up to them. And so I think that's one of the things that Stuart Johnson has said, that they're going to be setting a mandate at the winter meetings in January to make sure that video review process is looked at and hopefully fixed. Nothing's going to ever be perfect. Like you said, in U Sports, no replay, stuff happens, and we can talk about it and be upset about it, and teams can be upset about it. But in places where you do have replay, you expect at least it to be a higher percentage of them getting the right calls than not.
One of the people I feel sad for is Scott Flory. Man, that guy's been to a lot of Vanier Cups with the Huskies. Yeah. And, not the best record there. They came into the game pretty banged up. A lot of their star players were hurt or missing, dealing with other health issues there. But this big story that came out actually about a week after the Vanier Cup, that it has been vandalized by the Laval Rouge et Or, putting their motto on it, taking the Montreal Carabins plaques from the replica. I don't even know what the punishment could be that would be appropriate for this. This is horrible. Like, can you imagine, for example, if the Riders pried off the 2019 or 2021, Grey Cup wins from Winnipeg? Like, this is brutal. I know they're university kids, but come on.
Yeah, we've always heard of, university hazing stunts and stuff like that. And so I think it's easy to probably just, be like, these are just kids being kids. But this is a pretty sacred sport trophy. And for it to be vandalized like that, and for it to only come out that it's actually been vandalized on national television while they're presenting it to the team that it's been vandalized against, is pretty on brand for anything can happen in Canadian football, I guess. But there's got to be something. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you can, make it so that if they do win the Vanier Cup in the next 10 years or whatever, they're not given the trophy. I don't know but they have to send a message, because otherwise what's going to stop the next teams from doing this? And then, it's just constantly they're going to have to spend money to fix the trophy and blah, blah, blah. So funny, I guess, but they need to be pretty stern with whatever kind of punishment they can do here, because that's not a good look.
I guess we need a keeper of the cup for the Vanier Cup now. Yeah. It had been in Laval's possession for the whole year since winning it in 2024, and I guess that's probably going to be some lessons learned from that whole process. Daniel Wiebe of the U of S Huskies, he's going to be a rider next year. They actually drafted him this past year, but he went to finish his final year of eligibility in U Sports. He was the Canada West Player of the Year. I do believe he was playing hurt in the Vanier Cup, but he's going to be with the Riders in training camp, and I don't know if that's going to factor into some of their Canadian receiver decisions that need to be made during this offseason.
Yeah, they have almost every receiver, I think, Canadian receiver other than a Joe. Joe is a free agent, right? So yeah, they have a lot of things to look at and discuss and see where they can kind of save some money, I guess, because you see, we're going to talk about, Philpot getting his extension, and what does that mean for players like Sam Emilus or Keon Schaefer-Baker, even Tommy Neal. Like, I'm sure he was making, probably closer to the league minimum when it comes, a little bit higher because he's a Canadian, I would assume, but he had a pretty great year when he was in there after missing the first 6 games. 5 touchdowns, the biggest touchdown of the season for the Riders to kind of clinch them going to the Grey Cup. So he's going to want to get paid too. So yeah, the Riders have a lot of options, but also a lot of question marks when it comes to their receivers.
The CFL schedule does come out this week. We do know 2 dates on the schedule, though. That is July 4th and June 27th in beautiful Kelowna, British Columbia, in the Okanagan. I know the hotel prices are much to the dismay of fans. The CFL looking for a nice summer vacation. Yeah, it's basically like going to Banff in the summer these days. So I don't know if you can find a campground nearby. What is concerning to me is that it could be about 35 degrees under that hot Okanagan sun. Shout out to the CJFL team. But the Calgary Stampeders are going to be in Kelowna June 27th. The Elks July 4th. Tickets for these are going to go on sale in February. I'm guessing that these ones are going to fill up pretty fast. This is all due to the FIFA World Cup being in Canada next year. It looks like 1 Canada game is going to be in Toronto, 2 are going to be in Vancouver, among the other games that are happening. But props to the Lions for making a big event out of this, and they've said that they've wanted to involve the whole province. BC is a big province to get all involved in the football team, and I would have to say that this is making, lemonade out of lemons, Sheldon.
Yeah, it's definitely a far more ideal situation. That's what's going to be in Toronto. I like that they involve the two Alberta teams too, because they're the closest teams to be able to have their fans if they so choose and can't afford to find lodging there. Man, it'd be cool just to. I don't know how far away is the shoe swaps from Okanagan. That'd be cool just to rent a boat with a bunch of CFL family people and drive in.
Well, see, I've thought about that, about doing just get the houseboat for the weekend. But first of all, I don't know if I could survive that. So.
It's still probably Shane O'Mac prices for the houseboats too.
Yeah, but if you split it up with 15 other people or whatever, maybe it's not too bad.
That's fair.
I'm looking at Google Maps right now and trying to do a podcast with that. Yeah, the shoe swaps are closer to Kamloops, but it's actually only 137 kilometers.
Oh, that's Davidson. That's the A&W at Davidson.
That's true.
That's not bad.
That is nothing at all. But you know what? There's lots of surrounding towns in that whole area. Penticton, Summerland, Lake Country, Shuswap. Yeah. Find a campground. Have a good time. Although, again, if it's going to be at 35 degrees and it doesn't cool down, it cools down to about 20 there. So it would be I don't know. I'm not built for that kind of stuff, man. I'm polar bear.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when's Winnipeg gonna have a game in Churchill? I'd go for that.
I'd be in for that one. You did mention the Argos and their situation. Do you think that maybe contributed to the difficulty, bringing in a coach? No disrespect to their current hire, and maybe they were shooting for the stars. And some people made a big deal out of Corey Mace saying no, but I was like, why would he go? I mean, they gotta ask. Of course they're gonna ask. Yeah. And they asked O'Shea. Maybe they were close with O'Shea. I don't know. But they talked to Rick Campbell, Kevin Iben, Mickey Donovan, O'Shea. They wanted Mace. They all said no. Or maybe they just decided they're going to go with Mike Miller. And maybe a part of that is keeping Chad Kelly in Toronto, keeping him happy. He seems to have been a big part of the quarterback's success over the past few years. He gets a lot of credit for McLeod Bethel-Thompson's Grey Cup season, for Nick Arbuckle's career resurgence, and being Grey Cup MVP in 2024 in Vancouver. And now he's the head coach and OC in Toronto. By all accounts, a great man, finally getting an opportunity to lead the Boatmen as the guy going into 2026.
Yeah, I guess starting with what you said first, with their situation and the how they chose to go with the 3 away games instead of in CFL cities instead of going to Guelph or something like that. Honestly, I think it just comes down to money, and they just didn't want to spend the money to do that. They would rather just get the revenue sharing and from the 3 extra games in places where they know they're going to sell more tickets. So I guess from a financial situation that's good for MLSE, but just for a fan situation, it's not, because I know whenever the Argos play in Regina, for example, there's a good contingent of those Argo fans that come down there. And I don't know. I assume, to make it easier for the Argos, we'll find out in a couple of days, but I assume the Argos games are going to be back-to-back in Regina. It only makes sense logistically, because then they can just stay here and practice and prep for their home game or whatever. But that makes it hard for fans to travel. And I know it's easier when they play in Hamilton. They don't really have to do that. But I think that might have actually came into account when these coaches were discussing in their interview. You have to take on 3 extra road games. You have to take on the lack of a practice facility right there for you. There's a lot of issues, I think, with the Toronto job when it comes to just ownership and some roadblocks that causes, I think. But going to Mike Miller, from all accounts, like when I listened to his press conference, I think, he was very well spoken. I think he's paid his dues. You can clearly see he has. And, you know, I know a lot of people are probably going to point to, like, when Craig Dickinson took over or when Bob Dice took over in Ottawa, like just an in-house hire that they kind of a convenience hire that they really can't do anything else. And maybe that is, but like you said, Kelly of it all, I think, is huge, because if they would have went with a coach that, wasn't keen on Kelly, or Kelly wasn't keen on him, then they have to figure out a trade to Ottawa, because that's obviously what probably would happen there, right? So that way you lock up a QB who, by all accounts, if his head is in the game, he can be an MOP player. So you got to hope that he's learned and grown from his year off, and we'll see.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of other changes in Toronto, and this is, I don't even really know if everybody probably notices this, but for some reason, you'd think all of the adversity that's been thrown Toronto's way over the past however many years, being displaced, not having the best, maybe we'll say ownership, not having the best facilities, that kind of thing. You'd think a team like that would have a big, long Grey Cup drought. Sorry, Hamilton, but they still find ways to overcome the adversity. And I don't know if it's got to be the outside people in the organization, whatever it is, or if the players just kind of by osmosis look at themselves as these underdogs that nobody takes seriously. But they're like regularly in the Grey Cup and regularly winning the championship. It's crazy.
Yeah, when they get to the Grey Cup, I think it's like the last 6 Grey Cups they've been to, they've won them all. But then it's like the year after they like fall apart, or they go 16-2 and then just they lose in the East Final. Like it's very interesting. But they regressed this season, and it showed, and changes needs to happen. But it's kind of interesting because it seems like Ryan Dinwiddie wanted to do more, and he, from all accounts, wasn't given that option, or didn't think he was going to be given that option. So he goes to Ottawa, where he does get that. And then now it seems like John Murphy is out, and they've hired Hufnagel and Jim Barker, and it's like they have kind of completely changed that general managership, because we all know that Pinball is like a figurehead GM. Like, he's more of a president, I think. I don't think he's the guy negotiating contracts. That was obviously what John Murphy was doing and stuff like that. So now that they have these other 2 individuals who have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to being a GM, it has happened, and whether they wanted, I guess, it to happen or not, it's here.
Yeah, an interesting offseason already for the Toronto Argonauts. I don't know if it's done changing. We'll see what is still to come with the Double Blue. And you brought up John Hufnagel. What a run in Calgary. He spent 12 years in the NFL. He came back to Calgary in 2008, 3 Grey Cups in that time. His win-loss record, 105 games over 500. Like, that's tough to deny, and you could argue there probably should be 5 or 6 Grey Cups during that time. But hey, Hufnagel's not doing the work. It's other circumstances. Grey Cups aren't easy to win, but what a legendary run for him in Cowtown.
Yeah, and he still has like his football mind. Like I remember when the combine was here, I saw him, being there for the stamps, and he was very interested in looking what was going on. And a fun fact I actually learned on the Piffles podcast, he had his background on his laptop of a picture of him playing for the Riders.
Really,
which is interesting, considering he was still he was with the Stamps at the time. So I thought that was interesting. But a great hire. I think he's going to be. He obviously has a wealth of football knowledge that nobody else has. So good for the Argos.
And now with some very bad and sad circumstances, the Toronto Argonauts the Hamilton Tiger Cats they need a new GM as well. They did look like they wanted to talk to Kyle Carson. He's the assistant GM with the Riders for the past 3 years. He's going to be staying put. They've also now interviewed Brock Sunderland. Edmonton Elks fans are saying, don't do it.
I see a lot of Tiger Cat fans saying don't do it. I know my good buddy Corey is, I think, one of those people. So it's that's Brock didn't really have that much success in Edmonton, although he did have quite a bit of success before that with Ottawa. I think I don't know, maybe I guess not quite a bit, but as an assistant GM, I think they won the Grey Cup, correct? So he's definitely been on winning teams before, but I guess you can go nowhere but up for Brock Sutherland right now. But that time in Edmonton was not fun for Edmonton Elks fans.
Yeah, he was a part of the championship team in Ottawa in 2016, and actually he spent the last season with Winnipeg as their senior player personnel director, but has been out of a job since 2021. And a lot of Elks fans will sort of attribute their downfall of that franchise, or at least part of it, to Brock Sunderland. Maybe lessons have been learned in those 4 years, and who knows, maybe he's not the hire. We're going to see what happens there, but you know what?
I was just going to say, we've seen coaches, take breaks and come back way stronger. So I'm sure it can happen with GM. Like look at Jason Moss. Look at how his anger, and coincidentally enough with Brock Sutherland in Winnipeg, he couldn't handle his anger sometimes, and I think he learned and matured from that, and he became a Grey Cup winning head coach. So it certainly, you can learn from failing. It's just, can you take what you learned and be given another chance, and yada yada.
You know what, Ed Hervey, he had a bit of a reputation when he left Edmonton as well.
He did.
Probably left over weird circumstances, but what I'm saying is that when he came back, he seemed a lot nicer. Maybe he still had a little bit of that Labor Day.
Everyone but Eugene Lewis, I think. But yeah.
Maybe he still had a little bit of that Labor Day Ed Hervey throwing the helmet in the air kind of thing, but he, from media people I talked to in Edmonton, Ed would go to them and say, "Hey, it's good to see you," and they're like, "What? This is not the same guy." And hey, we had a quick conversation with Ed Hervey at about 1:30 in the morning in Winnipeg.
That was the greatest thing ever. That was the greatest thing.
We were leaving the convention center, and we look over, and it's just us and Ed Hervey.
Yep. Coincidentally, 30 seconds before that, you're like, I've always seen Ed Hervey at the Grey Cup, and I haven't run into him this time. And then we did. It was bizarre.
Yeah. Both trying to navigate downtown Winnipeg at 1 a.m. We were really struggling. He for different reasons than us, but
you were a bad influence on me that night.
We were working, Sheldon. We were working.
We were working, lady.
Oh, speaking of those Bombers, they're looking for a new OC. I know.
I wish they weren't, but yes, they are.
They did talk to Mike Miller, who has the job, which would be really confusing if they had two Mike Millers on the coaching staff. But they have recently interviewed Tommy Condell for the offensive coordinator position. It's going to be interesting to see what the Bombers do with that going into next season.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of Bomber fans who aren't too happy with Tommy Condell either. And again, this is something that is just a product of the CFL operations cap, I think, because again, the teams aren't being able to have the amount of money and positions available to get some of these younger up and coming coaches in there at the ground level to learn. And you do see it in certain situations. You see, Andrew Harris coming on as a running backs coach in Saskatchewan. And so you do see it a little bit, but when we're talking about the Argos head coach thing, when we're talking about the Bombers offensive coordinator, like it's all these names that just keep coming up every single year, it seems. And I guess it didn't work out when they went against, because they hired Hogan, and Hulkamania did not run wild. I guess Brady Oliveira did not run wild, at least with Hogan in there. But so I guess maybe I'm wrong here, because they tried and it didn't work. So I don't know. I just it's kind of frustrating as a fan, I think, for me, just to see all these names. Like, I'm kind of waiting for, like, some other names, like, oh, we're gonna get Lapo again, or we're gonna get Cortez again. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the
recycled names. I get it.
Yeah, I'd love to see some new people, I guess, get in roles and excel instead of not do well, as it came in Hogan's case, I guess.
I think the football world is just a small world, so a lot of people, they'll hire their friends.
For sure. That's definitely a part of it, for sure.
And that's how you get to be a 2-and-out host. You be my friend. And
that's right.
Until you become so sick of me that you want out, and then I have to dig deeper into my friend roster, which is pretty thin these days.
Hey, you're not talking about retiring, so that's good.
You know what?
You're talking about the next co-host. All right.
You know what? I
got that fire again, don't you?
At the end of this season, I don't think that I thought of retirement once. The amount of people that came up to me at the Grey Cup and said, don't retire, that helps. But like around the Vanier Cup, I wanted to do a show. Like, I didn't want to retire. But then I actually felt sick, and then Christmas parties have come up and that kind of thing. So I'll say this, retirement's like not currently on my mind.
And now let's talk about another player who decided that.
Yeah. Yes.
Look at that segue.
Okay.
I'm learning.
Trevor Harris is back. Did that surprise you?
No, it didn't, because I think Trevor was pretty. I think he was pretty loose-lipped about this fact that he was going to come back. Like, he kept contradicting himself in interviews. He kept saying, like, "Oh, we got to take time. We got to talk to the family." But I'm not done. Like, it's just like, okay.
Like, because I rewatched the Grey Cup today, and then after the game, he said, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was something like, we are gonna run it back. But then he's like, no, they are gonna.
Yeah. He said that he said that too at the championship parade.
He did, yeah.
And then, like, he said to Duthie after the game, like, I'm halfway between retirement and hitting my prime. And like, and he said it, like, the last interview before he left, he's like, we got to talk to the wife. We got to talk, but I just can't see us not coming back. So, like, it's just, he kept saying those things, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, like, they just got to figure this out. And when I went to that autograph signing, and I'm not usually one for autograph signings. Like, I don't mind, like, meeting players and giving them a fist bump and all that stuff. But, like, to me, 10 years ago, I kind of stopped really caring about autographs. But I went because, this was historic, number 5 for the Grey Cup champions, and I told him, I was like, I can't wait to see you back next year, man. And he's like, yeah, we'll see. But he gave me that wink, and it's just like, I just knew, like, and he was the one domino that needed to fall for the Riders, because the Riders have 46 free agents.
Wow.
Like, 46 free agents. I know now that number is closer to like 43 because there's a couple more signings, but and I think, a vast majority of those players, and I don't think it's only on offense, they're waiting to see if Harris is coming back, because you can't deny that he had his best career in the season, or he had his best season in his career, and he's 39. And so everyone keeps saying age is not a number for him, and I'm starting to believe, like, whatever it is, if it's the Tom Brady, health stuff that he does, whether it's just he's becoming smarter and he just doesn't take the as many calculated risks. The fact that he had an amazing O-line, even though there was injuries that happened, and there was two players who could have been all-stars who didn't really even play at all. One of them didn't take a single snap. He when you're a 39-year-old quarterback playing in the Grey Cup and you don't even get touched in the game, like I think he just feels safe with the line that he has and the coaching that he has. He's obviously pretty tight with Mueller, and it's awesome. But the question still lies in Saskatchewan. Who's going to be the next quarterback? Because it's going to be very interesting to see who they decide is going to be QB2. Because if they are going to bring Jake Mayer back, I think that does say that that's kind of the next guy. But I'm not so sure that he should be the next guy. And I know I have a tattoo of Corey Mason on my arm for the rest of my life now, so I'm going to trust that guy with whatever he's going to do. But very interesting to see what's going to happen in this quarterback room, because whoever is going to be, I want them getting that one. But I don't think it's only one with Trevor Harris. I think it's going to be 2 years, because if they do well, if they get to, like, let's say the West Final again, or get to the Grey Cup, even if they don't win, like that, if they're able to run it back for a home Grey Cup again, and he has another healthy season where he doesn't get injured, he has the protection, like I could see him playing at least 2 more years.
Yeah, it all depends on the health, right? Last year, he broke his leg in the middle of the year. Like, if that happens again, knock on wood, maybe it's all over. That's the risk, and I think that's the fairy tale. You had a chance to go. Like, I'm not saying I want him gone, but
no,
you don't get many opportunities to go out on top like that, and it does extend that a little bit of time for the Riders to find the next quarterback. Whether it's I don't know, is it Jake Mayer? I don't know. Is there somebody else in the wings? And I'm sure that work is going to be continuing into the off season. Now he's the 4th or 5th highest paid quarterback in the league, so he's kind of middle of the road there.
But apparently his signing bonus is $190,000, which counted towards this year's cap. So next year he's only going to be on in hard money for around $300,000.
That's very team
the Grey
friendly.
Cup MVP. Like, that's how you get your MLS back. That's how you maybe get your Schaefer Bakers back.
So we remember at the beginning of this year, basically free agency had opened and they announced that the salary cap was going up $400,000. So that is how the Riders can fit in this nearly $200,000 signing bonus going into next year. So that will definitely help with the salary cap there. And I just watched the Grey Cup on TV for the first time today, and they told a story where he was going to quit, high school football. And his mom says, if you go back, I'll give you $50. And then he said, that can get me like 7 meals at my favorite Chinese joint. So his nearly $500,000, that buys a lot of Chinese food, man.
It sure does, but he's got like 5-6 mouths to feed now. So
that's true.
He's got to get that combo for 6, you know what I'm saying?
Now, I know he's an athlete, and he probably really takes care of what goes into his body these days. I have to imagine, though, has he discovered some of the great Chinese food culture in the province of Saskatchewan? Like, every small town has some great culinary scenes when it comes to the sweet and sour pork.
Yeah, I have a feeling he's going to get, if he hasn't already, he's going to, because there is some significant marketing money in his contract too, and the Riders do a ton of going around, and especially with the Grey Cup, them having that this whole off season, like, there's going to be lots of small towns and schools and all of these kids that are going to get to see the Grey Cup, and I'm sure Trevor Harris is going to be on some of those trips, and this is what football in the heartland is all about. And it's been so long since the Riders have been able to have this Grey Cup to go around, and so I'm just so excited for all the communities in Saskatchewan that are going to get to see that beautiful trophy.
A huge shout out to Wong's Cafe in Kenora, Saskatchewan. But I feel like we should do a 2-and-out Chinese food tour in Sask.
I think we should just do a lot of 2-and-out stuff this offseason.
Gas is getting cheaper. I might be able to afford it.
Hey, that is very correct. That is very correct.
I filled up for $92.9 in Vegreville, Alberta last weekend.
There's two places in Regina that are still really cheap, like 106 right now. Some of the other ones are 130, but
ooh,
yeah. But the 106 is good.
I should have brought my jerry can, man. The Riders have also brought back Stone Cold Tommy Stevens through the next 2 seasons. And here's a question for you. Like the pending free agents in the CFL, Brady O is at the top of the list. Do you think he would wait to see what the Bombers are going to be doing for their offensive coordinator position? I have to assume, like if the players in Sask are waiting for Trevor Harris and they know that the culture's been built by Corey Mace and that kind of thing, they'll be like, yeah, I'm going to stick around. Or is Brady O just going to go to the highest bidder in 2026?
Well, see, I don't know, because we've always been of the thought, and just, Brady's the one who's kind of given us this information, that he's a Manitoba boy, he's a Winnipeg boy, and he loves to spend his offseason rescuing dogs, and he's taken team friendly deals when they have been the perennial Western Division champions. But he's said now that he knows that a shelf life on running backs is not as long as other positions, and he needs to get paid. And I think every player needs to do that. And so I do think he will wait to see what's going to happen when it comes to who's going to be offensive coordinator. But he's definitely going to wait until free agency, I think, at least till that tampering window, because he needs to see what other teams are going to offer him. And he needs to get that money. And more importantly than needing to get that money, he needs to get that offensive coordinator that's going to use him properly. And when you go through like a season, I think like he went through with a lot of frustration, I know he still did end up getting a lot of yards, but that's got to frustrate you. And I think he's not the only person in Winnipeg who's ready to start getting paid if they're going to stay there, because it seems like there's a couple other teams in the West that are going to be those perennial favorites, and actually any team in the West. We've seen improvement in Edmonton. We've seen improvement in Calgary. BC, a lot of improvement. Saskatchewan, obviously, they won. So if you're kind of on the outside looking in, Winnipeg could be that bottom tier team in the West right now. And for them to keep their star players, they're going to have to pay for them.
They are a team that needs to develop the next quarterback as well. They have brought in quarterback Bryce Perkins. He was the UFL MVP, and he was on the practice roster when the Rams won the Super Bowl. He was he went unselected, but he spent 3 seasons with them. The Rams won the Super Bowl, and he was on the PR then. So he's 28 years old. I mean, he's definitely got some talent. So the Bombers have brought him in. We'll see how that works out. But we've seen, how these work out. Like, I'm not saying that PJ Walker's done with Calgary, but we've seen some of these guys that come in with a lot of talent. And I know he got hurt, but a lot of times it just seems like a lottery ticket. Like, I don't know. Like, the fact that Toronto team had Ricky Ray, Trevor Harris, and Zach Collaros all on the roster, and what the combined Grey Cups now between those three quarterbacks, it's pretty crazy. I believe Jim Barker was a part of having those guys in the same room. Now he's back in Toronto, but it seems like a lot of these are sort of lottery tickets, and when you come to Canada and maybe you're playing football for 25 years or whatever it is, those guys start when they're like 3 years old in the States, and then now all of a sudden they're learning a brand new game. It can be a bit of, I think, of a shock when they come to Canada.
Well, for sure. And I think that's why you see a lot of quarterbacks who do become, let's say, quote unquote, elite in the CFL circles, like your Durants, your Ricky Rays, your Calvillos. Like, these players, they needed time to get a handle of that 12th player, of the wide field, the using the waggle to their advantage, and it's often, not a lot of players are like Nathan Rourke. To his credit, he played some Canadian football growing up, not a lot because he spent a lot of time in the States, but it's rare when players like him or Chad Kelly or other players are able to get that immediate understanding of the game, because there's other players who get that and they fall off. I'm kind of thinking of Casey Printers, Jennings, like these guys who look like they're going to be the next guy, and then it just they just got lucky. They had a really great team around them and carried them. So it does take a lot of I think spending time holding that clipboard, learning the game, and so that's why it's crucial for teams like Saskatchewan and Winnipeg to get somebody in there now who's going to be their next guy. Because if you're learning from a Zach Collaros, if you're learning from a Trevor Harris, that's what those two players did with Ricky Ray and Henry Burris, and the list goes on, right? They've played with a lot of other good players, so it's crucial for them to extend that learning tree onto the next batch that's going to be taking over.
There have been and there are going to be a lot more signings and extensions. An interesting note from Toronto, their defensive line, they really got poached after last season. But Ralph Hawley spent the season in the NFL. He's coming back for 2026. That's going to be a big addition to that Argonaut D-line. Signings in Edmonton, they've extended Noah Taylor and Brandon Barlow on the D-line, and there's going to be some changes in that coaching staff as well, as Demetrius Maxey, Tristan Dice not going to be back, Maxey not back as the special teams coordinator, so we'll see where that one goes. The Stamps have extended offensive lineman Bryce Bell, the Red Blacks extending Canadian running back Daniel Adeboboye, Canadian running back Johnny Augustine staying in Hamilton, as is Canadian receiver Tyler Turnowski, and the Alouettes spending some money here. Pierre-Olivier Lestage has been extended on the O-line, the left guard there, one of the highest paid non-quarterbacks in the CFL. He was about $240,000, and then they also extend Tyson Philpot, a huge extension by the Montreal Alouettes, now the highest paid Canadian receiver in the Canadian Football League, keeping him around for a couple more years at least in Montreal is big for that team.
Yeah, speaking about the Alouettes, I think everyone, if you have any sort of interest in the Alouettes, please check out the Flight Deck's 300th episode. They had an interview with Jim Pop for 3 hours, and I listened, and it was an incredible, I just learned so much about not only with the Alouettes, but just what Pop has done in general, but just how he was able to build that team, and when it was still the Stallions being a part of that and all that stuff. But yeah, Lestage is one of the best of linemen, so for him to extend and get paid is awesome. But Tyson Philpot, don't get me wrong, Tyson Philpot is incredible, but he has yet to have 1,000-yard season. I know he's had some injuries, but this is a gamble for the Alouettes, because he, again, nothing taken away from him. He's going to be one of the best players in the league going forward. But a lot of times these players are the ones that kind of set the market for that receiver, that position, and then it turns out that maybe they went too high with that one player, or they can't live up to the hype, and I'm not saying that's going to happen here with Tyson Philpot, but Sam Emilus has had 1,000-yard receivers. They both have been most outstanding Canadian or most valuable Canadian in Grey Cups. But so Sam Emilus needs to get paid now too. But is he going to take a better deal to stay with the Riders? Who knows? But again, I just wanted to point out that while I do think Tyson Philpott does deserve this money, like I think he's getting it maybe one contract before really, really earning it, if that makes sense.
Well,
that could be a hot take. I don't know.
I kind of wanted this. I think it's a bit of a hot take. What I was going to say here, like the salary cap went up like $400K. I kind of wonder if we're just going to have to start getting used to these new numbers. Yeah. Maybe the Alouettes are gambling on the cap going up again, and then all of a sudden this is just the new reality and players are getting paid more, and that's a good thing.
Oh, for sure. No, I completely agree with that. And they have hinted, I think, Stuart Johnson and Elamimian both hinted that the cap might go up again because of increased revenue for the league. And so, like you say, that is great. And I am happy to see these players getting paid. Do not get me wrong. I just see, like, in the past, we've seen Winnipeg signed Dalton Schoen to a huge contract after one season, like a really good rookie season, and then he has a couple injury seasons in a row where it doesn't. And I know that's football, and that's what happens. And again, do not take this the wrong way. I want these players to get paid, and I'm happy he got paid this. And hopefully you're right. Hopefully, seeing receivers make $300,000 in the Canadian football is just what's to come, because that would be awesome. Hopefully some of those defensive players get starting to get paid a little bit more too, because these guys, you have to cover these guys, they deserve to get paid too.
Yeah, it seems like those American DBs, they get the shaft when it comes to their paychecks here. Yeah. Now, let's talk about Tyson Philpott. Now, I know the playoffs don't count towards
the playoffs.
Towards his totals, but in 2024 he had 779 yards in 9 games.
Yep.
If it was a full 18. Yep. And then he caught
fair.
The Grey Cup winning pass in 2023.
100%.
So this year in the playoffs, he had 804 yards in the regular season. In the East Final, he had 30 receiving yards. It wasn't really an offensive game against Hamilton. But against Winnipeg, he had 135 and a touchdown. So he's at 165 yards there. And then against Saskatchewan, he had 87 yards there. So he is over 1,000 when you include the playoffs. And that was only 15 games because he missed a few during this season. Anyway.
No, I hear you.
I think
he does.
Emilus might see this and say, well, your turn, O'Day.
For sure. Yeah. And I think, and I hope O'Day pays him what he deserves. Like, I hope that the Riders are able to do that. It's just when you have a team, like, there's going to have to be some players taking a little bit of a discount in Saskatchewan if they want to run it back. And I think these players have seen what happens when you do that, because you have a small window on teams when you can win now. And Winnipeg did that. Before that, Calgary was doing it. If you find that model of success in the CFL, you can work that in, especially with marketing money. And the Riders are able to, like, they should lead the league in marketing money contracts because of the amount of stuff that they do in the community. They're actually showing that money is useful, I guess. But yeah, I'm interested to see what the cap does go up, if it does, and like you said, I think a lot of the teams didn't pay to that new cap last year because it was announced so late, and they were able to get some deals. Another one we'll talk about with Keon Hatcher in a bit here, I'm sure, and so these GMs are able to be a little creative when it comes to these contracts, getting these players a little bit more money when maybe it doesn't look, on paper, it's not actually that high for the fiscal year.
Well, I mean, Philpot hasn't got to 1,000 because of his injuries. Emilus didn't get to 1,000 this year because of his injuries.
True.
He missed 11 games. So we'll see what happens there. Keon Hatcher, and Emilus is 28. Philpot's 25. So to your point, he's probably going to have a few more contracts where he's going to get a few bucks here. Keon Hatcher, he benefits, well, obviously, playing with Nathan Rourke, 31 years old. He's going to get $630K over the next 2 seasons. Playing for the BC Lions. 1,688 yards, 9 touchdowns in 2025. And he gets rewarded with a nice, shiny contract.
He does, but I'm very surprised that this worked out. And again, it's the money that they were able to use for a signing bonus. But because he was very vocal, being like, I'm going to free agency. I'm going where whoever pays me the most amount of money. So obviously, Amar Doman and BC realized that they needed to back up the Brinks truck, and they did. And he is the type of player that you need to do that. When it comes to next year in the CFL top 50 players on TSN, like, he better be in the top 5. Like, he's that dynamic of a receiver, and it's great seeing him get paid. But again, when you talk about the cap or the salary management system or whatever, I think the number was 22% of what the cap is now that they have locked up in Rourke, Hatcher, Betts, and I can't remember who the other one was. Maybe it was McInnes or it was Butler. I can't remember, but it was like, those contracts are big. And, we've seen in BC is even with when Michael Riley went there and they paid him so much and they paid a receiver a lot of money. They didn't pay a lot of money to the O-line, and we saw what happened there. So BC still got to do some work in protecting Nathan Rourke, because he is dynamic and he has many years left of, as long as he's playing that league. I think you can just rename it the most outstanding Canadian, the most outstanding Nathan Rourke award. But he needs those pieces with him, or else he's just going to be the best player on the not best team, right?
Now, we talk about the cap and all of the... 2026 is a big year for the CFL.
Yes.
It's the last year of the TV deal with TSN. So all of this new rule change talk, it's getting phased in starting next year. The TV deal comes to an end, and with that is a possible out clause from the CFLPA and the CBA. So it does look like the PA wants to put on the league a January 15th deadline for the reporting of financial documents, so we don't have a repeat of what happened earlier in 2025, where the salary cap goes up basically as a lot of players have already signed.
Yeah.
So they want to prevent that going forward. However, I don't know. When are we going to find out what the TV deal is going to look like in 2027 and beyond? And that could decide whether or not this CBA is going to survive past 2026 or not. There's some very interesting times ahead.
There is. Typically, the only thing that I can really point back to when it comes to media rights negotiations, and this is because we're wrestling fans, is we've been through a lot of it as wrestling fans lately with, WWE making deals with Netflix, making deals with USA, making deals with ESPN. And a lot of these announcements seem to come out, like, I would say, almost a year in advance, maybe, 6 months in advance at the latest, I would say. So I assume we're going to know what the new rights deal is probably even before the season starts. I would think that they would have some sort of announcement, whether it's just they're staying with TSN or whether they're going to go streaming for a game, or whoever knows what's going to happen. But I think we will get that information sooner than later, and then yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what the players think of that deal and how it relates to the current CBA, because I think there was a lot of fans, myself included, who when we saw that the CBA was till 2029, we were like, yes, we don't have to worry about any threats of a delayed season or anything like that. But we could, because if the CFL gets a really high number for their deals and it doesn't make sense for the players to play at the current rate, yeah, if I was the players union, I'd absolutely be opting out to get a more piece of the pie.
Do you think it's going to be the same old? Or, I mean, a former TSN executive is now, the commissioner of the CFL? Or
he's going to know how to bargain against them, that's for sure, because he was the one who was bargaining those deals in the past. So,
that's a weird situation.
It is a weird situation. But from everything that I have heard that Stuart Johnson has said, and a lot of it has been recycled of what he said. But when at that State of the League at the Grey Cup, he was very clear about how they're wanting to do a lot more different ideas with multimedia, different ideas for getting younger fans engaged. So that tells me that they're going to be swinging for the fences for this thing, and I think streaming is going to be part of it. Whether it's a game on Amazon, whether it's a game on Netflix, like I could see one game a week going to a streaming route, and maybe TSN getting the rest of it. But I don't know. I think when you show viewership up, when you show attendance, when you show scoring, and then you have these new rules that are supposed to increase that, we'll see if they actually do or not. That all leads me to believe that there should be a significant increase when it comes to the rights, and the CFL is getting a lot of sponsorship dollars. They're having the official everything of the CFL, which is great to see. So this is what the league needs to thrive. And I think, outside of the fact that unless Sportsnet decides they're going to give a crap about CFL and put in a bid, like I just don't know. But because that's the only thing that can kind of get in the way, I think, because TSN could be like, well, who are you going to actually go to? Who's going to actually give you the infrastructure you need to carry these games? And so I'm very interested to see what happens here, because
I don't know if
Sportsnet promised a lot of things,
has room for it, honestly. I mean,
no, and
the amount of hockey they air and baseball during the summer too, like,
right. And that's what makes TSN the perfect partner. But like, I think TSN took it for granted for too long, and they started to do some innovation in the broadcast this last year. I thought most of it was great. I thought some of it was awful. The AI stuff needs to go. That was terrible.
It does need to go.
But, we saw more in-depth interviews on pre-games with the players. We saw more like fun stuff. And so hopefully they do more of that and just stick to that kind of stuff. Stick to the cool interviews and getting to know these players that we can market. But just, I don't know, they need to do something to change it up, and I just hope that they get a good amount of money, and maybe they get more money for the American deal, because that's up as well too. And we'll see. It's up to Stuart Johnson to show that all these things that he's proposing and changing, the proof needs to be in the pudding here.
Fascinating news that 3 Down Nation has been acquired by Harvard Media. Justin Dunk, the man with 3 Down Nation, he's been sort of a part of the broadcasts with Harvard in Regina, right? So I don't know. I had to assume maybe there's some business meetings going on those trips, but good to see that there's solid financial backing behind this such an important resource for Canadian football fans.
Yeah, I think three down has really stepped up their coverage in the past few years, and I think, last year was a tough one for them. We've heard from people that they were kind of on rocky foundation, I guess you could say, and yet they still continue to churn out as much as possible, and they're always there. They ask the tough questions at the they hold the league accountable, but they also celebrate the league, and I was really happy to see that they were able to get that, and Harvard's still going to let them, say whatever they want, even though Dunk works for the Riders. He's able to say whatever he wants about them, and so that's good. And yeah, just JC and John and everyone who's there, they all do a really good job. And like you said, just happy to see that they have a good financial backing to them now, so that they can continue to give great coverage of this league.
We are in NFL workout season for CFL players. Trey Vavel of the Bombers has been worked out by the New York Jets. The New Orleans Saints have worked out Isaiah Wooden of the Ticats. Moose, Damian Alford of the Stamps, and also Devin Varasek, the rookie linebacker for the Ticats. He also worked out with the Houston Texans. Jalen Hutchings of the Calgary Stampeders, dominant force on the D-line, worked out with Cleveland and Minnesota. Minnesota also worked out Quentin Barrow, Ticats offensive lineman, and Dante Myers of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And Taylor Elgersma has been worked out by the San Francisco 49ers. Isn't there another Canadian connection there in Curtis Rourke? But there's some NFL workouts. I'm sure we're still going to be hearing more over the next several weeks.
Yeah, these players, it's great to see them get a chance at the show. I know that this is all of those players' dream to go down to the NFL. And if they aren't able to make it there, all of those players will still have a great home in the CFL, whether it's with the teams that they were this season or not. But yeah, I'm always happy to see these players get a chance.
Well, that was a long list. I think we should just call it now.
Come on, we got some more to talk.
What's your Spotify listening age?
40. My actual age.
Really?
I was very surprised, but that's just because I still listen to the same stuff I listened to in high school.
I got 57.
Yeah, you're old. Yeah.
It's all the Black Sabbath, I guess.
Must be.
Wow. I can't believe it nailed your age.
Nailed it.
I think we are both combined younger than Percival Molson. McGill claiming that repairing the turf will be $1.75 million. And this is... I think the Alouettes situation is going to be interesting to follow in the next few years. Where they're going to be playing, that kind of thing. What PKP is going to be doing with the Alouettes going forward. Yes, Percival Molson was built in 1915. They alleged that games last year had to be delayed while they made emergency repairs on the turf.
I read that and I was quite skeptical because I don't remember anybody, and you would think that like 3 Down or somebody would have stuff about that if that actually did happen. It's like, I get that they're saying it's going to cost that much money, but it's already been decided that the Alouettes will be in charge of replacing that turf and maintaining that turf and changing it back to the U Sports configurations if they do not change their rules. So I just kind of feel like they're just, highlighting something that doesn't need to be highlighted. McGill is talking, I think the total amount of money that they're looking for from, I think, the government is $50 million because they cut back on a few of their sport programs, and they say they need a lot of repairs in other places. And so this 1.75 for the turf, just to me, it seems like a nothing burger because we already know that the Alouettes are going to pay for that and take care of that.
And tough news for Dylan Mitchell, CFL receiver, was involved in a alleged high-speed chase in Arkansas. Tough news story. I guess he'd been having a tough time in his life, and it had a tough impact on his season in Winnipeg. And I just hope he's able to get back on the right track. When Salisbury died of the Edmonton Elks, I guess it really affected him. Christian Salisbury is one of his best friends, and lost him, and made a big impact on him. So hopefully he can get back on the right track, and maybe it's not going to work out with football going forward, but all the best to him going forward either way.
Yeah, life's more important than football. So hopefully, he, like you said, he can get on track and get whatever help he needs, because it seems like he's in a little bit of a situation in his life, and hopefully, he can recover from this and learn and grow and get the help he needs.
The CFL winter meetings are in January. The CFL schedule comes out on December 9th this week. So there you have it. I think that covers it all, Sheldon.
It does. Give me 4 games in 4 spots in the East in one weekend.
Do you want to make it happen?
CFL. I would make it happen, because that would be pretty epic, I think. We know a couple people who've done, every stadium in a row and in the Guinness Book of World Records times, and I don't need to do that, but I think it would be pretty cool if the CFL would make a yearly kind of pilgrimage that hardcores can go to, and I just think that'd be pretty awesome.
That's what Sheldon wants for Christmas.
I also want an electric drum set. They're on sale at Costco right now.
That's specific. Wow, you nailed the drum fill on the theme. You can rate, review, and subscribe to Two and Out on your favorite podcatcher. Subscribe on YouTube. All the fun stuff. For Christmas, we'll give you one more episode before Christmas, all right? We'll talk to you soon on Two and Out.
The Two and Out CFL podcast is written, produced, and hosted by Travis Currah and co-hosted by Sheldon Jones. Subscribe to Two and Out on all major podcast platforms and YouTube to keep up to date with future shows.